Hello everyone, and this is my review for TNA Impact on September 30th, 2015, and this being the final episode going into the Bound for Glory pay-per-view, you kind of expected a few things, and they did definitely do some decent build going into the pay-per-view, though some of the sense of the build was also kind of almost negating everything that they were going for, or at least what it looked like they were going for. And I'll get into that in a little bit. They started off the night with EC3 having a promo with Dixie Carter. I thought this was a pretty decent promo, setting up the main event for the night with Matt Hardy and Drew Galloway going up against EC3 and Tyrus. And then they throw the curveball in there where if Matt Hardy and Drew Galloway win the match, then Matt Hardy's now in the main event as a triple threat. And like I said, this felt like they were just completely negating the match the week before. The five-way match, which Drew Galloway won. It's like, yeah, this doesn't seem big enough, so we're going to add another person to it. Let's just do it. So they did go into that, go with that, and then you got a couple of extra backstage promos with EC3 and Drew Galloway and Matt Hardy, and basically everything setting up how the main event would go. Like you got the bit with Matt Hardy and Drew Galloway saying, "Oh, we'll work together tonight," but then every man for himself on Sunday, everything like that. Basically, Drew Galloway saying it's like, going with the area of like, "Oh, don't worry, I'm not going to screw you over just because I want a one-on-one shot." And making it feel like he doesn't care whether or not it's a one-on-one shot. So, there's a couple decent things there, but in the terms of what they were going with last week, adding this stipulation kind of negated everything that everything they had done the week before. And I'll get to the main event a little bit later on in the night. Up next, they had Muhammad Ali Shira and James Storm in a no disqualification match, which I thought was a relatively good match. I won't say a really, really good match, but relatively good. Muhammad Ali Shira has been playing off of this area, destroying the Revolution and everything like that, and just the continuation of pushing him a little bit further and having him go over James Storm in this case, pretty much ending the Revolution, I would assume, at this point in time. Because, well, you had last week, and then, of course, everything with this week as well, going in there, which I believe, if I remember it properly, Manic comes out there and interferes in the match as well. So, they pretty much ended the entire Revolution at this time. So, again, relatively decent segment, not too bad there. They're continuing to push Muhammad Ali Shira a little bit further along, and giving him this win does kind of help that out a little bit. So we'll see where they go with him here in the future, and what kind of feuds they can come up with him, and where they can go with him as a face versus being heel and everything like that. So we'll see where they go with Koya. I said Koya, Muhammad Ali Shira. Koya was when he was in the Revolution. Oh boy, mess up sometimes. Well, up next, they had a triple threat X Division match, which really didn't serve too much of a purpose outside of announcing pretty much two matches. They had already announced the X Division title match with Ultimate X the week before. They just hadn't put the people in there yet. They put Manic, DJZ, and of course Tigre Uno's in there, and they brought in a newcomer into it as well. And then you had Trevor Lee, who was also in the match, and they announced that him and Brian Myers were going to get a match for the TNA Tag Team titles against the Wolves at the pay-per-view as well. And that's pretty much the only purposes they really served. You didn't see the Wolves or Tigre Uno at all. No kind of promo, no kind of thing to try to set up more with these title matches or anything. They're just kind of there. No real build for any of that. So yeah, I mean, the match itself with what was it, with DJZ, Trevor Lee, and I believe it was Ciampa? I think his, I forget the other guy's name at the moment. I think it was Chopma or something in that case. But in that case, like I said, when new people come in, I always screw up their names, and that's just how I am. Honestly, it takes me a little bit to get names down, and but I mean, overall, relatively good triple threat match between all three guys. They all got their offense in that they necessarily needed. It didn't feel like it was just spot to spot to spot to spot to spot to spot to spot, where it's like we must get in all of our stuff in a short period of time, and let's just no-sell everything so we can get all these moves in. It felt like a pretty decently paced out three-way match. It was, like I said, it was pretty good. Just didn't really serve much of a purpose of anything going into the pay-per-view. So I mean, that's that on that case. So up next, I do believe they had the Dollhouse. Yes, I do believe the Dollhouse was up next. No, it wasn't the Dollhouse up next with the Beautiful People. Up next, they actually had Bobby Roode coming out and talking about the King of the Mountain title, what it means, everything like that. Issues an open challenge, and it ends up being Bobby Lashley coming out. And I'm actually glad they set it up this way with a promo before the pay-per-view with the two of them, where it seemed like he was just going to issue the open challenge, and it's like, okay, and I'll wait for my opponent at the pay-per-view and everything like that. It's like, no, you're going to know your opponent now. You two are going to have this pretty good promo, and pretty much a way of setting up a respect match for the King of the Mountain title, and honestly setting up a match that, yes, we have seen in the past. It's been a little while since we've seen it. Well, maybe not that long. It's been about 9 months. But still expecting to be a really good match. And so that's actually a match that I kind of get excited for going into the Bound for Glory pay-per-view, seeing Bobby Lashley and Bobby Roode go one-on-one again. Those matches were really good in the past. I think they'll have another really good one here. And now it's one I'm actually excited to see going into the pay-per-view because of the matches they put on in the past. So they don't need too much time to build up for that one, and I'm kind of glad they're going with that in this case. Now up next was the Dollhouse going up against the Beautiful People in a 2-on-3 handicap match. You got another promo from Tara Terrell backstage with all the members of the Dollhouse talking about, it's like, oh, you have the advantage, everything in that case. You know, still trying to play off the aspect that tonight they're going to take out the Beautiful People, which in the end the match didn't really play off of that, and you're expecting to see more from this feud down the road here, especially with the aspect that the Dollhouse went over in this case. And I'm actually kind of glad they did, because there's so many situations where it just doesn't feel like in a handicap match that the team with the disadvantage should win. And this was one of those cases. So I'm actually kind of glad that even though they had to go out and cheat the win, they still put the Dollhouse over, and you expect the feud to continue on. So in the end there, not too bad, but not all that great as well. But expect to see more, and they'll probably do something to set up a feud ender whenever Tara Terrell's coming back, and whenever they're playing off the injury with Angelina Love is over with as well. So we'll see where they go with it, and where they're going to go with it here in the future, or if they're going to even do anything at the pay-per-view with it. So we'll see where everything goes with that. Up next, they had a couple video packages. One with Brooke about being the about saying what she wants to do about, or what she's going to do about the fact that she lost the Knockouts title, everything like that. And then you had a video package with Gail Kim about her match with Awesome Kong at the pay-per-view. Pretty good video package just with Gail Kim there. Obviously they keep Awesome Kong as a silent type. They kind of always have, and I think that's how she's pretty much played off her career. She's never really had much mic time or of any kind to talk or anything like that. So And that's an aspect of the character in general, is that she doesn't have too much mic time. So in the end, Gail Kim, promo-wise, is the one who has to build up the match. Since they're not doing anything in arena-wise, you have to do something promo-wise to set up this match, which is what they did. And they did a decent job about it. They're talking about the past matches with Gail Kim and Awesome Kong and what to expect for this one. So again, not too bad of a promo there, and a decent way of setting up the actual pay-per-view match itself. So up next, they had Eric Young coming out, cutting a promo, talking about, well, they're pretty much playing off the aspect of him being that traitor and everybody wanting to beat him up, and that brought out Robbie E., Chris Melendez, Mr. Anderson, and basically getting the advantage over Eric Young in here, in this case, and then basically him going complaining to Dixie about what he should, or what she should be doing about this, because he shouldn't be fighting everybody, everything like that. It's like, yeah, don't worry, you won't have to fight everybody at Bound for Glory. Just gotta fight one, Kurt Angle. There you go. Have fun. And it's one of those have fun moments. You don't have to have Kurt there to really promote it. Kurt and Eric Young's feud kind of spells it out for itself there. So you don't actually need him to show up too early to cut promos or anything, because, like I said, they've been playing with him going out with that neck injury and neck surgery a while back. Which it wasn't, you know, a overly extensive typical neck surgery that you would think. It was to just remove something that was within that area. So you played off of that injury angle. You played off of that injury to make an injury angle, and you set that feud up months ago, and now Kurt's coming back. So good way of going with it. Just kind of announce that the match is going to happen. You kind of know, if you knew what was going on in the past, you know what they're going to go into with the pay-per-view match. So not too bad of a segment there with Eric Young. So up next was the main event tag team match with Drew Galloway, Matt Hardy, and Tyrus and EC3. And honestly, this was a really good tag team match. Again, I feel like they defeated the purpose of that 5-way match the week before by adding someone into the main event. You made it just feel like, it's like, okay, we don't think this main event's big enough, so we need to add more people to it. But like I said, I thought the tag match itself was actually a pretty good match. I don't necessarily think they needed to add someone else to a main event match at the pay-per-view. They should have kind of gone with a one-on-one area, and they could have added a special guest referee, which honestly, I kind of called it last week. And like I said, this was even without reading spoilers. When someone gets fired in wrestling, unless their contract's actually up with the company, and it's kind of already been announced that their contract is up and they do a firing angle, they're never gone that long. They really aren't. So Dixie, after the match, comes out, you know, they feel, it's like, okay, you have Matt Hardy and Drew Galloway. It feels like the odds are getting stacked up against EC3 already. So let's stack them up even more by adding a special guest referee, Jeff Hardy. Great. Called it, because again, when someone gets fired from in a wrestling angle, they're never gone that long, and they should be, honestly, just to kind of, you know, build up the suspense a little bit. But no, 1 week after being fired, Jeff Hardy's back, and there you go. You are now a special guest referee in a main event match. There you go. That's how it works. That's how pro wrestling works, people. At least with firing angles. I wish they would play it off a little bit more and have them like go away for a few months and then. But I mean, in the end, it kind of adds a little bit more excitement to the pay-per-view match. But honestly, in the end, I feel like it kind of predicts the main event, how the main event will probably go. It's like the way they have it stacked up right now. EC3's in a triple threat match with Drew Galloway, who just wants to fight. People. Matt Hardy, who does not like him, does not like EC3 at all and wants the TNA World Heavyweight title and retribution for everything he's done to him and to his brother Jeff. And you have Jeff Hardy as the special guest referee who does not like EC3 because they've had a feud and then he had to become his personal assistant. So it just feels almost to the point where you have to give EC3 the win at the pay-per-view. Just because, like, the way the odds are stacked up against them is like that's how it usually ends up going. They stack the odds against people, and then the person who has all the odds against them usually finds a way to win, whether it's to the heel's advantage or to the face's advantage. So overall, this Impact, I would say, was pretty good. Decent setup to the Bound for Glory pay-per-view, but in some ways kind of negated some of the stuff they had done before. Really quick builds going into the pay-per-view itself. Some things make it exciting to watch, but I don't know how good this pay-per-view is going to be until we actually watch it on Sunday. I think there's going to be at least some good matches. I don't know about good stories by any stretch of the imagination, but we'll see what happens with everything. And that is my review this week for TNA Impact Wrestling, and I thank you guys for watching.